welcome back to another edition of BadgerBlitz TV, your rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. From the recruiting trail to inside Camp Randall Stadium to on the court at the Kohl Center, I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always every week by rivals.com Midwest recruiting analyst Clint Cosgrove, the godfather of the Midwest. No, not the
Oh
godfather.
God, yeah, you can't say
Can't
that.
use that word. The maven of the Midwest? I don't know. Whatever we want to call you, you are the guy when it comes to prospects around the Midwest. And we just love having you around, Clint. So great to see you as always, buddy.
No, thanks for having me on. Thanks for putting up with me. It's always a pleasure, man.
Putting up with you. What are you talking about? You're the one who has to deal with me. So we had, since we last talked last week, we had a couple of commitments. We landed two guys from the Midwest. The Badgers did in Justin Taylor's and Jacquez Keys. We talked a
Yep.
lot about Taylor last week and even the week before. I don't really want to delve super deep back into him. We all think he's going to be a solid safety. But Keys is a guy we've talked about here before. You like him on defense, but the Badgers have decided to bring him on as a running back. So a bunch of people led by Lake Mills Badger on in the Badgers Den, the BadgerBlitz.com message board. He wants to know what Keys needs to do on the offensive side of the ball to improve as a player to get to the level that you think he could on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think with my evaluation of Keys, when I talk about him on defense, it's not that I'm like, oh, he's not a good running back. It's just like I loved him on defense. So it's more of me being excited about him as a defensive player and his ability to make plays. And just you look at his frame and his physical body. I mean, he's like built like a Greek god already. I mean, he looks the part as a running back. For me, I think the biggest thing would probably be his home run hitting ability, his breakaway speed. Now he is very fast, very quick in like small areas. So he's gonna be really good in between the lines. He's a patient runner. He's got really good feet, good lateral movement, and he's got a great burst. So that's the first part about being the running back. That's probably the hardest part. The second part is, like I said, being able to hit that home run, and I think that's what he's going to need to work on. He runs well. I'm not saying that he can't, but you want your running back to be able to hit a home run, whether they're a small guy, a big guy, whatever it is. And I don't have verified times on him or anything like that. I do think he does have that ability. But he's also a physical runner that kind of invites contact, and he does really well in short space. So he uses that to his advantage. And really, when I say that I love him on defense, like I said, again, it had nothing to do with him being, down as a running back or anything like that. I was just a really big fan of his defensive film. I think he'll be just fine at running back. If he doesn't work out there, obviously he would work out on defense. But I do like his ability. The one thing, and it fits great with the Wisconsin offense, is he's going to be able to get yardage every play. He can avoid contact in the backfield. He can get to the second level. He's a physical runner that's going to fall forward. So, biggest thing for me would just be the ability to hit the home run and really break away with speed. And not saying he can't. I just need to see more of him before I can, put that stamp on.
Yeah, man, I definitely see what you're saying there about Keys, because I think that I think there's a version of him that could look a lot like someone like maybe like a PJ Hill, maybe. I think maybe with like a little bit more speed and burst, but you're right. He's not going to hit a home run. He's not going to be Jonathan Taylor unless. I mean, we saw Taylor make a massive leap. I feel like comparing anyone to Taylor is kind of blasphemy, but Taylor took a massive leap between his junior and senior year of high school. He dropped his 100 time from like 10.9, I want to say, down to like in the 10.4s. And that is a gigantic leap. And I think if Keys is going to be successful, he's going to have to get some of that speed work in. And I also want to see him set up his blocks a little bit more. He still seems a little bit raw as an actual running back himself to me, coming from my end. I don't know what you see there.
Yeah, no. I definitely agree. He's got such natural ability that he can get away with, being raw at the position because he's just, he's a natural athlete. He's bigger, faster, and stronger than the kids around him. And, that's part of what makes him special in defense. And, I definitely think that they like that his ability in constricted space. Like he's going to find holes. He can get skinny. Part of his deal is he's so jacked and rocked up right now. Uh, when you're that strong, it's hard to get that long stride in there. Whereas, Jonathan Taylor was just so big and kind of forward leaning and, long strider. But like you said, like that big track improvement. And you see that from a lot of guys because it's really, you go from that you're still developing to all of a sudden you're a grown man and your body comes together and then everything kind of falls into place. So it happens with a lot of kids. He looks pretty physically mature right now, though.
For sure. Okay, so one guy who did not commit, which was a bit of a surprise, Tyler Gantt, the defensive tackle from Missouri, who he had the Badgers way up there the whole time in his recruitment. He went to Northwestern, though, in a bit of an odd surprise. Do you have any insight on what happened there and sort of what the next step for the Badgers is going to be at the defensive tackle position? We've talked about Jamel Howard. I'm sure there are other guys out there, too.
Yeah. So the Tyler Gantt thing kind of surprised me. He was supposed to commit June 29th. I almost put a future cast in for him to Wisconsin. I do think it would have come down to Wisconsin, Northwestern, and Illinois in the end for him. But when he went on his visit, there was a bunch of other like high profile kids there that weekend for Northwestern. They've already picked up 5 or 6 commits from that weekend on top of it. Michael Kilbane, who is a kind of an edge rusher out of Ohio. He's a 4-star kid. And so they had this like magical weekend with a great set of kids. And I think he just felt so comfortable in that environment. They had him over at Wrigley Field, for dinner. And that's when he decided to make the decision. He had no intents of committing that weekend. In fact, we had his commitment interview scheduled for towards the end of the month. And I get a random text. He's like, "Hey, would you mind shooting it tomorrow?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't want to shoot it that early because then word can get out, and I don't want to ruin their commitment." And so I was like, "Well, are you sure you really want to do it already?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's really important." And so I was shocked. He just threw it on me. So Wisconsin was in it, had nothing to do with anything against the Badgers. Had he made it up there for a visit, they would have been right in it. But as a kid, and he's an academic guy. He goes to a big time college prep high school. He loved Coach Fitz, and it just, I said, you got excited, didn't you? And he's like, I did. I did. And then I just, when you have that feeling that it's right for you, I don't blame him.
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more schools do these big weekends where they try to bring in as many guys as possible. I know Wisconsin's doing it. I want to say first weekend in June is when they're bringing in like all of their top guys that they want. Probably just build that camaraderie, stuff like that. I think that's what we're seeing a lot more, which is which is an interesting sort of tactical approach, right? In a lot of ways. And to do that, you need guys who are already committed that are going to kind of bring them together. I'm curious to see out of the group of guys that the Badgers have signed already, who is sort of going to be that first vocal leader, especially without having a quarterback in tow, who's usually sort of the guy that brings people around.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. Just from the guys that I know personally, like I know like Tyler Janzi, he's a big personality. Justin Taylor, we've talked about him a lot. He already deleted his old offer posts and stuff. Like he's all Wisconsin. Like he's the type of kid that that will be a great advocate for the program. I don't know Keys well. I've never really talked to him outside of a couple messages, so I don't know what that will be like. But usually when you have those big official visit weekends, they can go really good or they can kind of backfire. You get somebody on campus there who doesn't have a great interest, and they're the vocal guy and they're pulling people a different direction. Like you just never know. But I think when you do see it and you see it work, it definitely pays big dividends. And that could definitely help them happen at Wisconsin. So.
Well, speaking of vocal guys and ones that could be in the, the quarterback position, in terms of recruiting other guys. Bobby Ingram has a big task ahead of him. Wisconsin has signed one really big quarterback prospect out of high school in the past, let's say 20 years, and it's Mertz. We all know what's happened with Mertz. The ups and the downs. What does Bobby Ingram need to do, both on the field in terms of play calling and off the field, on the recruiting trail especially, to land one of these top guys? Probably not going to happen in 23. It's a little late in the process for that. 24, 25 moving forward. What do you think is important for him to do as the OC and quarterbacks coach in order to really sort of bring someone in who can be a true difference maker?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is multifaceted. One, first and foremost, and actually we've seen them do this, you need to get on them early. Quarterbacks, the elite quarterbacks, the majority of them, you have a pretty good idea of who they're going to be at a young age, and it's a very competitive position. And so, in order to be part of that competition, you've got to throw your hat in the ring early. And we've seen them do that. I mean, like Ryan Montgomery, his older brother Luke Montgomery, is committed to Ohio State right now. He's a 2025 quarterback out of Ohio, offers from Georgia, Alabama, and stuff. But in order, I mean, same thing, Georgia, Alabama, like they can only take one quarterback unless it's maybe an athlete or something as well. So you've got to go to bat with the big boys if you're going to get a big time quarterback. So that's one part of the equation. If you're not in on some of these kids early, if you do a great job evaluating, that's another way to get on a great quarterback, to get on a difference maker. And maybe they aren't the highest rated kid there is. But I do think either way, the evaluation part is very important, and then getting on them as early as you can. So that's the first part. Second thing is, I mean, you got to throw the ball around, right? As we talk about, and we've talked about in the past, Wisconsin's one of the running back U's. And as a quarterback, where most of these kids are playing out of the gun in high school, throwing the ball around, especially the highly recruited ones, getting behind center and handing the ball off doesn't exactly get their veins fired up, Now, if you get the right kid and, he comes to a game at Camp Randall and, if I'm a young quarterback and I see Graham Mertz's first performance at Wisconsin, I'm probably thinking like, wow, this could be a great place for a quarterback. And it can be. It can be. I mean, like when you think about it, in order to be a great quarterback, you've got to have great offensive line play, and you've got to be able to run the ball, and that opens up the throwing lanes. To be a really quarterback attractive offense, I do think you need to open it up a little. You need to play out of the gun. And then Coach Ingram, he needs to sell his, experience with, Lamar Jackson at Baltimore, and look at the things that we've done with him. I mean, throw on that tape when the kids are on campus, get them excited, give them kind of a carrot, dangle it in front of them, be like, this is what can be. Just because you don't see it right now doesn't mean that it won't be. And so you've got to sell the vision. Obviously, you got to show it on the field. And it only takes one kid.
Yeah,
It only takes one kid. Connect with the right guy, make the connection, identify, evaluate, coach them up, say the right things, show the right things, and really, get them on campus at the right time. If I'm trying to get a quarterback to Wisconsin and I have a really good Wisconsin team that's playing prime time against Ohio State or Penn State on a Friday night or a Saturday night, that's where I'm trying to get my big time quarterback to come and see what that magic is like, because that is a difference maker. Because as a quarterback, you picture yourself walking onto the field in that kind of environment and going into play in a big game. And big games are a selling point for big players, and especially in that environment that you get on Camp Randall on a Saturday night. So I think there's a lot of aspects to that. A lot of different parts of the equation. There's no one set way, but in my opinion, those are some of the ways that you can put yourself in a great position to land a great player. I mean, Graham Mertz was that guy. I think he still has that talent. You just got to harness it and make it quarterback friendly.
Yeah, I think he absolutely still has the talent in him to do that. I think the arm talent is there. I think that a lot of the problems had much more to do with the offensive line than most people want to admit. I've been out there saying that I think the offensive line just gave him the yips because he had no time to throw early in the year, and so he started rushing decisions. But we'll see how that goes this year. His development this year is going to do a lot as well to say, hey, Mertz was the number 2 quarterback in the country coming out of high school. Look what I did with him, right?
Yeah.
If he can have that bit, that sort of, all conference season where he's throwing for 3,000 yards and putting up 20 something touchdowns and limiting the interception. So we will see.
And he's capable.
He's absolutely capable. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see. We on this show will see you next week. Appreciate your time as always, Clint. Everyone out there can check out Clint at rivals_Clint on Twitter, on Instagram. He's always around, poking around the message boards as well. Make sure you're in the den. BadgerBlitz.com, yourrivals.com home for everything Wisconsin athletics. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube here. Trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. I think we're almost there.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's
people.
get it.
Come on. Let's get it. Thanks, Clint. We'll see you soon, bud.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks a lot, man. A lot of fun. Always a pleasure.